It is a huge battle between DEI and affirmative action and Title VII. Okay, and now President Trump's executive orders, which are going to reach the vast majority of employers in this country. Now, let me just ask here, how many folks you have some sort of diversity policy, DEI program, tolerance program, equity program, hiring practices, something that falls under those categories? Okay, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. And think of Target. Target got rid of their illegal program rather than making it legal, which I think is the thing to do. You make it legal, okay? But they got rid of it, okay? Why didn't they just make it legal? Because now, you see, they're getting boycotted, and it's really hurting their business by the far, far, far left who want a DEI program. But if they bring it back, they'll get boycotted by the far, far, far right. So you kind of see that's your company, isn't it? So let me just give you a little bit of update on these things. First of all, going all the way back to 2003, the United States Supreme Court said that quotas are illegal. Now, what's a quota? A quota was at the University of Michigan, that figures, being a Ohio State fan, okay? If you were a black applicant to get into University of Michigan, out of a scale of 100, you got 20 extra points. Now, understand what I'm saying. If you're going to run a 100-yard dash and somebody just got 20 yards head start, you got a problem. It had nothing to do with need. It had nothing to do with poverty. It had nothing to do with anything other than your skin color. So yes, if you happen to be the son or daughter of a neurosurgeon who happened to be of color, you got 20 extra points. Okay. And the University of Michigan students were really torqued off over this. So it's really kind of funny what they did. They sold donuts on Michigan's campus. They sold donuts. And what they did was they marked donuts for white people $1. Donuts for anyone of color, 80 cents. That's what summed it up. The United States Supreme Court came back in the Gratz decision and said this is illegal. It's illegal. It's an insurmountable effect on everyone. So quotas are illegal. They violate the law. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay? That is a huge advantage. All right. Now, understand too, there's only so many spots to get into University of Michigan. So if you happen to be an Asian kid trying to get into University of Michigan, you didn't get those 20 points. The black candidate did. How would you feel? And it's illegal. So understand morals, and we can debate back and forth what you think is ethical. But how many people agree, you know, the one thing that we cannot do in our companies is we cannot adopt illegal practices? How many people agree you can't break the law? Yeah, because honest to God, we call that corporate capital punishment. You would be dead before you hit the ground. Fired. We can't do that. So understand, we got to find legal ways to do what you want to do. That's great. Okay? It's like the difference between, like you're playing football. You're allowed to run down the sideline all you want. You step out of bounds, you're out. Okay, now let me just, this heats up the country, heats up your workplaces. In 2023, we got the United States Supreme Court decision, Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard. And that outlawed quotas and affirmative action in colleges and universities. But it was based on the Constitution. Now, let me show you why. So you got to know the facts. Okay, now let me just show you. If you applied at Harvard to get into Harvard, if you were an Asian American, if everybody has the same objective characteristics, like Everybody's got the same GPA. Everybody had the same extracurricular activities in high school. Okay, the same test scores on like SATs and things like this. The statistical likelihood that you would get in if you were Asian was 25%. If you were white, 36%. If you're Hispanic, 77%. And if you were black, you were a shoo-in. You had a 95% chance. That's illegal. That's illegal. Now, again, we can get into morals and things like this, but that is what the court is saying. It is illegal. Okay? Everybody with me? You got to follow the law. Now, United Airlines. Let me just give you this part of our legal update here. What's going? This is what the Office of Federal Contract Compliance did last year. And understand, affirmative action says that what you need to do, and I want you to understand affirmative action, because Hubert Humphrey, if you're familiar with Senator Hubert Humphrey, ran for president in 1968, he wrote Title VII. He wrote it. And he said if there's anything in here that would make illegal preferences in effect or quotas, I will eat this bill. Well, here's what affirmative action was supposed to be. Okay, what you do is you look at the last census, whether it is 2020, 2010, but our most recent was 2020. Okay, so you got the 2020 census. You look in your geographic area. How many black people are there? What, men and female? How many white people are there? Men and female. They don't make any other distinctions in the census. How many Asians? How many Latinos? How many Pacific Islanders? You then look to see how many that you are employing. Okay, that is what it's supposed to be. So you would look to see in your area, like let's just say I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, and let's say I employ 100 warehouse employees. Well, we have a nice mix of Asians, Latinos, blacks, whites. Now think about this. What are the chances that I have a warehouse of 100 people, minimum skill, and they're all white? They're all white. Something illegal is going on. That is what affirmative action was supposed to be. You have to reflect what's going on in your community. And if you're not doing that, you got to have a reason why. You haven't necessarily broken affirmative action rules. And understand what affirmative action is. It was an executive order by Lyndon Baines Johnson back in the early 1960s. Everybody with me? Early 1960s. And that was when we would go up and say, hey, no blacks apply. No blacks apply. Okay, so you see the problem. What it has turned into is a quota system. It has turned into, I'm going to give preference to somebody in my hiring because of their race. Okay, that is not what affirmative action was supposed to be, but that is what it has turned into. And now it's become illegal because it violates Title VII. Title VII, you kind of see the battle between affirmative action and Title VII. Title VII says that you are not supposed to, well, you're not allowed to, base an employment decision on someone's protected class. So yes, giving preference to somebody who's white, to someone who's black, to someone who's female is illegal. What are you supposed to do under affirmative action? You are supposed to, and here's the legal way, you are expected to expand your applicant pool. You actually have to go out and find a lot of diverse applicants, and then you choose the best person. So you will reflect what's happening in your geographic area. That's the legal way. And what was United Airlines doing? They were giving preferences to hiring minorities over whites. Okay, you see the difference here. That is illegal. Okay, and the Office of Federal Contract Compliance was started by Lyndon Baines Johnson years ago to make sure that people were complying with affirmative action. And what did that mean? It meant that you were reflecting your community, that you were not reaching into a jar of marbles. Here's a good way to think of discrimination. If I have a jar of 76 marbles that are white, because there's 76% of all Americans identify as white, 13% black, 6% brown, blah, 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 and I mix them all together. What are the chances you're going to reach in there and grab a handful of marbles and they're all white? That is what it was meant to do. United Airlines, on the other hand, was specifically discriminating against white people to hire minorities. Okay, hiring minorities. And so guess what? They got caught. They got caught. Office of Federal Contract Compliance pretty much ordered them to comply, to stop these illegal practices. Now, understand, everybody tying these together? Illegal quotas started in 2003. 2003. Okay. How many, that's a long time. That's 22 years. How many people had not graduated high school yet? Anybody here? 2023. You have not graduated high school yet. Yeah, getting a few folks out there. There you go. You didn't even graduate high school yet. It's 22 years ago. United Airlines was doing this last year. Okay, now you're starting to see big brouhaha going on here. And I gave you the letter on page 8 from the Office of Federal Contract Compliance. You got to stop doing this. You are not going to set quotas. We call quotas all kinds of, we're going to set goals. It's really funny because I was talking to a vice president at SHRM and it made me shudder. He said, "Oh, no, 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 no. We would never set quotas. We set goals." Okay. Okay. How stupid do you think we are? Okay. Do you understand that that's illegal? And do you understand that if you're encouraging your people to break the law, that's what we call boomerang bigotry. Okay? That's what that competitive victimization podcast is that I put out there for free on my website. You throw a boomerang at bigotry. If I'm white and I throw a boomerang of bigotry against somebody who's black, what are the chances somebody who is of color is going to pick up that boomerang and throw it back at me or someone who looks like me? That is what is happening in your workplaces. Okay, so they got nailed as of just last year. Okay, everybody with me? You do not want quotas. Absolutely, you will get nailed. Okay, now, what else is coming out from our DEI stereotypes and things like this? Here is Dr. Abram. This is a big case from last year on page 9. Dr. John Abram apparently had a real wild party at his house. And when you're a doctor, you can buy all the best alcohol and whatever it is that you have going on there. Well, apparently he got wasted, just got wasted. That's what you do when you're letting off steam and you're a doctor, or a lot of people. And there was a female resident who was putting the moves on him. Started grabbing him inappropriately, sexually suggestive ways, getting him more drunk, grabbing him. Now, freeze right here. Do we have a stereotype against males? Is there a stereotype out there where people, some of you are probably thinking right now, "Oh yeah, well, he's a guy, he's a doctor, so I know he's a pervert. Oh, I just know it, I know it, I know it. This probably isn't true at all. He is probably doing the thing to her. He's probably getting her drunk and chasing." That is an illegal stereotype. Well, that next Monday or something, Dr. Abram goes and files a report with Thomas Jefferson University Hospital, which is where he was employed. And he found out that the female resident had already filed a charge against him. Okay, here we go. Right? So here comes an investigation. And so How many people think that, okay, I got this investigation coming up. I want to investigate the truth. I want to find out what actually happened. So I'm going to talk to other people and I'm going to find out about both of them. How many people think that's the thing to do? Yeah, absolutely. Let me clue you in here. Just because you're educated doesn't mean you're smart. Oh, Danielle, thank you. There's three sides to every story. You are absolutely right. That's not hyperbole. There's his side, there's her side, and then there's everybody else's side. And I will tell you point blank, the truth lies in the facts. It's a party. There's people everywhere. I got lots of witnesses. I want to know what happened. Okay, well, the investigate. Now, here's the problem. The investigations focused entirely on Dr. Abrams' behavior. Did not even inquire as to the female's behavior. Isn't that what's happening in today's society? We are going to stereotype Dr. Abram, and we are going to put all these stereotypes on him, and the truth only gets in the way of a good opinion, right? So let's hang him, then we'll get the facts that we need to do that. Okay, is everybody with me? Okay, absolutely. Duke's, oh, Carter, thank you. Duke University's boys lacrosse team, wasn't it? Yeah. Everybody look in the chat. Carter, that's all right. If you're not familiar with the Duke University boys lacrosse team, Google it. Google it. Okay? Because a lot of false accusations and pretty much could have ruined these kids' lives. Okay. So Dr. Abram is saying, hey, they're portraying me as a rapist. All this stuff isn't true. So what's he do? Well, he sues. Okay, that's how it ends up in Legal Update. And it came out at trial that Thomas Jefferson University didn't really investigate the female resident at all. It went entirely on a stereotype. They categorized Dr. Abram as being guilty. As a result, his reputation is damaged. He lost his contract with the hospital, but he was also let go with an orthopedic institute where he was working. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, now think about this. He was asking for $5 million. $5 million from the jury. Okay. The facts were so bad against Thomas Jefferson University that the jury came back and wanted to award more. They wanted to award more money. They gave him $15 million. Okay, everybody with me? I'll tell you, 5 women and 3 men on the jury, just in case you're looking for a mix of people on the jury. They were so torqued off that this was one of the largest awards in the history of that state. Okay, now let me clue you in. This stuff happens a lot. Since my battles have begun, speaking up for all people, I get calls. I tell you, I'm on the phone regularly with a friend of mine who is who is non-binary, and she's being harassed something terrible now after these executive orders. Oh my gosh, she says up to 20% of her agency, they have already resigned. They are getting bullied so bad. That's wrong. That's wrong. We got to make sure that this isn't happening in your organization. Okay, let's go another one that was really big. This Jeffrey Menaker. And there's Jeffrey. Okay. He was a male, well, he's still a male. He was the coach of the male and female tennis team at Hofstra. And so he just took over as the coach for males and female tennis team. And so he has this one sophomore that came up to him and said, hey, or the freshman going to be going into her sophomore year, said, hey, your predecessor promised me that going into my sophomore year that you would pay all of my fees for me. That I would be on a full ride scholarship. I'm only on a partial now, but I would be on a full ride scholarship for my sophomore year. And he's like, well, I don't really know anything about that, but let me look into it. So he went to his boss and said, well, she says that she has this agreement with the coach to get a full ride her sophomore year. And his boss says, well, there's no money in the budget for that. All right. So he goes and he looks at some other things and everything, comes back to the student and says, well, I don't know what this person promised you, but there's no money in the budget for that for the sophomore year. But I think I can swing it for your junior and senior year. We can get you a full ride scholarship. But you see, I don't have any control over this budget coming up now. I'll have more control over the next one. This budget's already submitted. She goes ballistic, says that this is discrimination and all kinds of stuff. She says that I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Her father calls up Mr. Menaker and bawls him out, just tears him a new one. Okay, not nice. But then Mr. Menaker gets summoned to the vice president of the director of athletics and the deputy general counsel at Hofstra. The student put these allegations in front of Hofstra. They said, hey, Menaker is subjecting her to unwarranted sexual harassment and quid pro quo sexual harassment. You give me this, I'll give you that. You give me sex, I'll give you a scholarship. Said that Menaker had a strange obsession with the students with her menstrual cycle and would repeatedly comment when she was getting her period. Says that he would tell other players to dress nice and shave their legs, that he was threatening her with her scholarship and position on the team and was yelling obscenities and verbal abuse at the players on opposing team. Now, Menaker is sitting there saying, none of that's true. Here are all of my emails. Here are all my texts. Here are some witnesses that you should talk to, okay? And here's the proper timeline and what she told me and what her dad told me. Okay. Hofstra never talked to any of his witnesses. Freeze right there. Is he automatically guilty because he's a man and she's a woman? And you know, all guys are going to sexually harass women all the time, just like Bill Cosby, right? We're all the same. Okay. They come back. They didn't investigate. They broke their own policy and came back and said that they needed to let him go because of his unprofessional conduct in the totality of circumstances. Okay, freeze right there. Do you hear something pretty euphemistically vague there? That's pretty vague. You no longer fit into our direction. Okay, you are being unprofessional. We've decided to go another way. Let me clue you in. Whenever somebody says something like that, that's vague, things like this, they're lying. They're lying because they don't have the facts to break it up. Okay, how many people think, oh my God, this is another unfair investigation? Okay, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you're not a cultural fit. I love that, Danielle. And I get in trouble because I always say, what do you mean specifically by that? What do you mean by that? That makes them really uncomfortable because then I tell them, you know, whenever somebody uses a euphemistic phrase like that, they're lying. You do realize that. You're lying to me because you don't want to be honest. And oh, by the way, where's my recorder? Because I want to record this right now because you're a liar. Okay. Well, make a long story short, he sues and he wins. He wins. You didn't follow your own policy. You stereotyped this guy from the very beginning. Let me tell you right now, do you want 10 more cases? Do you want 100 more cases? This is what we refer to as reverse discrimination. But the truth of the matter is, it's just good old-fashioned discrimination. Let me let me ask you a seriously offensive and very controversial question. How many people think we're all human and everybody should be treated with equity? Oh, I love all yeah, all these thumbs up. Absolutely. Okay. I was told by the director of DEI for the state of Ohio that no, we do not treat everybody like human beings because that detracts from the disproportional impact against minorities. Okay. You kind of see the stage for this backlash. Okay. Now, here, this is for your training. Okay. How many people have ever been to a diversity training and they have stereotyped white males, like all white males are this, or all white people have white privilege? Anybody ever hear that? I mean, I was told that all white males are guilty. Yep, within the last year. Okay. I want you to keep that in mind. And particularly you that are listening here, do you know that you can get sued for that? Do you know that you can get sued and lose for that? What if you brought in a bunch of people and you said, well, all the blacks that are in prison deserve to be there because they're all guilty? So if you said that about somebody else, that's a problem. When I say that companies are dropping like flies, I ain't kidding. I am not kidding. So let's look at Mr. Vara here. Mr. Vara works at Honeywell, and he's white. And of course, this is right after George Floyd and DEI programs across the country flourished. Okay, it's a good idea if they're legal and they don't stereotype people. That's great. Okay. Well, after this, there was a black woman that was killed in the area, and everyone at Honeywell was required to go to training for subconscious bias. And if you go to my website, I've got subconscious bias, unconscious bias posted there as one of our podcasts for Make Ohio Fair, and it's free. Understand, I'm not selling this stuff. I want it to get out there because we've got to have better workplaces. You realize whatever happens in the world today is going to affect your workplace tomorrow. Okay, if not that afternoon. So he refuses. They send him emails. You've got to go to this DEI training and you've got to go see this subconscious bias training. He refuses. He will not go. They warn him. He won't go. And eventually they fire the guy. They say, you got one last opportunity, you're fired. He doesn't go. He sues under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And I want you to imagine there's this battle between DEI and Title VII. He says that it is stereotyping, it is discriminatory, and I'm not going to go. Okay. Okay. It goes all the way up to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, listen to what the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals said. They said, Mr. Vavra, you lose. You didn't watch the video. You didn't go to the program. So you have stereotyped this training to say that it is against white males, that it stereotypes white males. You didn't go see it, so you don't know that's what it did, so you lose. But if you had gone to the training, if you had sat through it, and you could show that it was stereotyping white privilege or white, all whites are the same or all whites, well, then you'd win. Then you'd have a case. But you didn't sit through it. Okay. Everybody hearing me here? I will tell you, whatever training you put in place, it's got to be legal. And you do not want to put something in place, and particularly a video. I mean, good God in heaven, a video. There's evidence of it. There's no debating what you did. Plus, if you have a trainer in, I promise you somebody is going to be recording it. Okay, I'll tell you, I have seen more trainings that make my spine curl. And I will tell you, for 20 years, 20 years, I've been ringing the bell saying, we've got to stop illegal programming, and you cannot stereotype anybody. All white males, all gay males, all black males, you can't do it. That's like saying all blacks are good in basketball. Well, if you've ever seen Chris Rock's show, everybody hates Chris. That ain't true. That ain't true. Okay, so everybody with me? There's an important lesson in that case for you. Look at page 15. You got to document your interactions. Honeywell did a great job of that. Emails, they did a great job. They did a great job, provided written warnings. DEI trainings cannot be, now here's another pitfall for you. Has anybody ever gone to a DEI training and they said that you have to be accepting of other people's differences? Have you ever heard that one? Oh yeah, boy, getting the hands up, everything. Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now I want you to try this on because I'm talking to a bunch of folks who are in the real world who deal with people. If I go up to a Christian fundamentalist and I tell them they have to be accepting of Islam and Muslims, do you hear a legal issue there? Do you hear a problem? Oh my gosh. Oh, it's legal. Are you kidding me? You're going to tell a Christian fundamentalist what to believe? Oh, first of all, you're going to tick everybody off. You're going to tick off, oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, that's a good way to get a union. Okay. But most importantly, you just told somebody what to believe regarding religion. Oh my God, you are lining up to be lunch. No, you tell people that you can believe whatever you want to believe. And many of you have heard the story where I have a Satanist, yeah, really, a Satanist working for an Amish company. Yeah, yeah, working for another Amish country. Oh, thank you, Lisa. It's tolerance versus accepting. Yes, it gets misused a lot. That's why I'm calling my program Intolerance of Intolerance. We're going to be very intolerant of your intolerance. I told the Amish ladies, you are right. You hate this Satanist person, you don't agree with her. I will back you to the death. Your right to believe whatever you believe. I will never tell you what to believe. I will never tell you to be accepting of somebody, but I will control your behavior. You are not going to pick on her anymore. And I got news for you. She's recorded what you said, and she's going to sue you, and she's going to win because Satanism is a religion, and you are treating her terrible. I need to talk to you about your behavior. Again, I will defend your beliefs to the death, but I'm going to control your behavior. And I'll tell you, it's amazing. They never thought of it that way. They never thought of it that way. Okay, everybody with me? Okay, you are licking the outlet here with, and you have to deal with diversity. Okay, everybody with me? Any questions before we move into the executive orders? Okay. In his first week in office, President Trump signed 4 executive orders that directly address diversity issues and DEI programs. Okay. 2 we're going to focus on. Okay. And I tell you, all of this stuff we've talked about, this is what's happening in the courts. You don't want to get caught. And these things have led up to this. Now, let's just go through, and for your organization. Your organization. Oh, and by the way, you've got to create a safe environment for people, all people, everywhere. Because do you realize that there are 1.4 jobs in America for every unemployed person? Everybody got that? That means there are 40% more jobs right now than there are people. No one's going to work for you. The pendulum in the past has swung way to the left, in which there have been all kinds of illegal things done against white people. Okay, is that pendulum going to swing back? I've been saying it for years, and now guess what? It has swung all the way back to the right. And I am saying, I don't want you to get rid of safe environments for everyone. I don't want illegal DEI, and I don't want stereotyping. Do you agree with me that we need to get in the middle here in your organization? Do you agree we're all human beings? Yeah, we're all human beings. Do you believe that racism and bigotry are wrong no matter who's doing it? Yeah, everybody. Everybody. Absolutely. Everyone should be purposefully included in your inclusion program. I mean, we don't attack anybody. Absolutely. Oh, and you should not use illegal tactics in your inclusion program. Oh, absolutely. Oh, here's a good one. No one should ever be attacked, bullied, or discriminated against or stereotyped. I think these are basic rules that we can all follow. But this is not what's been happening. And finally, do you agree that everyone should go to work every day in an environment that is safe? Now, freeze right here. I'm going to show you how to deal with these issues. Not a pendulum swing to the far right or the far left, but in the middle. Okay. All right. How many people here, you have safety programs in place already? I know you do. Look at all these. Okay, even my doctor's offices welcome all the norm people. Okay, and all the AFWA people. Love to have you here. Absolutely. Doctor's offices. Do you have safety procedures for sharps? Oh, absolutely. Look at all the hands. Yep. For all your sharps. Absolutely. Manufacturing. All these areas. Doctor's offices. But think about this. Is it safe for your body and brain? Are you being bullied? You should never be bullied. Okay, now let me pull you in here right now. I want you to use this in your organization. If a child is hungry or poor and you're concerned about the race of that child, you're the racist. You're the racist. Okay, what do I want for you? Where are we going? Amen. Right back at you, Lisa. Thank you. Oh, the PowerPoint is a concise program in itself. I'm going to send you these slides, Holly. Yeah, I'm going to put them in a PDF. Oh, I love my slides. This is what insomnia gets you. Are you making it safe? Are you making, and those of you who've been around a while recognize that this is the Wizard of Oz and the Yellow Brick Road. It's full of little dips and things. I want it safe. Okay, freeze right here, safe. This right here was a godsend. Was a godsend. In 1964, it became law that you were not allowed to base an employment decision on race, color, religion, national origin, or sex, and sex now includes sexual orientation and gender identity. Freeze right there. How many people agree that I should not base an employment decision on your demographics, but I should base it on your character? To quote Martin Luther King, how many people think? Your abilities. Absolutely. And I want you to recognize this clash. This is what's coming up. Title VII is good law. It is still in effect. Okay. Now let me talk to the older folks. I might be one of the oldest ones here. Is there anyone here? I was born in 1960 when it was perfectly legal to tell blacks they couldn't eat at the Woolworths lunch counter. My grandfather was a realtor. And I remember looking in the upper right-hand corner of the multiple listing service books, which held all the for sale, those houses that were for sale. I remember in 1967, 1968, there's a little W and a C in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, who can tell me, what did that mean? Anybody knows what that W and C meant? White or colored. That's what we referred to people of color back then. That makes me sick. No blacks, white and colored. No. So if you had the money, if you were Oprah, you still couldn't move into a neighborhood next to me. That was terrible. Terrible. Okay. Awful. And guess what? I'm throwing this boomerang. And let me just clue you in here too, just to show you my adamancy here and my insight. My grandfather was Klan. My mom's dad was Klan. And I got news for you. When I was growing up in Nurka High, only those of us from Newark are allowed to call it that. It's Nurka High. Half of city council was Klan. Okay. Now understand, Title VII went into place in 1964, which covered housing. I'm looking at the W's and C's in 1967, 1968. Ohio didn't realize it was part of the United States. Newark, Ohio didn't think it was part of the United States. They didn't think it had to comply. Now look at, and I want you to look at when we all work together, how effective things can be. Now picture this. I want you to really think about the horror of this. Gandhi said the worst form of violence is poverty. In 1959, 55% of all the blacks in this country lived in poverty. Picture that. That's an abomination. And why was that? Because I wouldn't give them a job. Okay? Black Wall Street, Tulsa, we burned it to the ground. Okay? You weren't allowed to buy houses. It was horrible. We wouldn't give you a loan. Oh my God. So what happens when we put a law in place that fights that and we all work together? At least 60% of the people in this country work together. In 2022, look at these figures. 17% of all black people in the United States lived in poverty. That was a historic low. We're not there. There's still discrimination, and you should be as upset over that as the next black person who gets discriminated against. In 2023, it dropped to 15.4. I'm not saying we're there, but what I'm saying is, do you see when we treat each other like fellow human beings, what the result can be? What the result can be. Okay, now let's look at a few things for DEI and Title VII that I don't want you putting these things in place. Okay? Mark Cuban. Everybody knows who Mark Cuban is, right? One of the richest people around, Shark Tank. He was testifying before Congress. And understand, he's not a bad man. He's not a bad man. He is saying this stuff because he wants to help people, because he wants equity. He says, I only ever hire the person that will put my business in the best position to succeed. And yes, this will get him in trouble. Race and gender can be part of that equation. I view diversity as a competitive advantage. Okay, that was 1 year ago. Andrea Lucas, who is the commissioner of the EEOC, said, unfortunately, you are flat wrong, dead wrong on the black letter of Title VII. By the way, the senators stopped him in the middle of his discussion and say, you need a lawyer. You need a lawyer. Don't say anything else. Don't say anything else. Because Andrea comes back and says, and if he, Cuban, is using it, race or gender, as a factor, and now really get this, even if it's not the only factor or not even the deciding or dispositive factor, if it's any part of the decision, then it's a motivating factor, and that's illegal. Freeze right there. Do you see why there are so many illegal DEI programs in this country? And I got canceled for warning SHRM, Ohio SHRM, and all the chapters in Ohio that this is illegal. You got to stop doing it. You're teaching your people to go back and break the law, and you're throwing this boomerang of bigotry at white people. And guess what? That boomerang is going to come right back at you. And now it is. I don't want diversity to be canceled for all my black brothers and sisters. And I want you to understand that we all are related. All of us. All people come from Adam and Eve. And yes, the Human Genome Project proved that all people do come from East Africa. So when you discriminate against somebody, you're discriminating against somebody who is no more than 40 times removed related to you. Okay? So what's happening? State of Ohio openly says that we will only hire black trainers for these types of things. That's illegal. That's illegal. Or people of color. And that boomerang is coming back now. And it's going to swing to the far right. And Department of Education says, no, we're teaching that it is permissible to break the law and illegally discriminate against white males to make up for the past sins that have been committed against blacks. What do you wonder why Ohio is no longer a purple state? Okay, we want your workplaces to be safe. I hear this all the time. I heard this from my own chapter in Columbus, Ohio, Hiraco. It's illegal. Companies need to establish mentoring programs for Black employees. You need to form mentorships to help Latino women. That's illegal. Flat illegal. And if your company is doing that, you need to start mentoring programs for anybody who wants them. And because you're going to get nailed. I don't know if anybody saw in the news, but yesterday, Pam Bondi, who is head of the Department of Justice now, is going to now criminally investigate companies that even have a DEI program. Oh my God, they're coming for you. They're coming. Okay, so let's get something legal in place. Now, let me just show you sort of the effects of this stuff. Okay, from 2010 to 2020, 11% of all the white people in this country fell into poverty. 5% of all blacks fell into poverty. 9% of all Hispanics. Now, understand, look at these numbers. 8 times more white people fell into poverty than blacks, and there's only 6 times more white people. This is going to come back to bite us all. Again, if you're concerned about the race of somebody who fell into poverty, you're the racist. Okay, now let's look at a few other things I want you to put into place. I'm going to send you these slides. Racism over the long term accelerates aging and tears your brain circuits apart. And that's whether you're white, black, whatever. It destroys you. And those of you who've been in my sessions before, you go into fight or flight and you release all this cortisol and adrenaline in your body. Okay? So you're flooding with cortisol and adrenaline. Okay, that is the worst possible thing that could happen to you. Because what's that going to do? Well, if you lose your car keys or your car won't start, that's distressful. But when you are bullied for another human being, and I want you to think about this. If you're bullied by another human being, it doesn't really matter if that person is white, black, Asian, female, transgender. It doesn't make any difference. You're going to release 3 times that cortisol and adrenaline. 3 times. And 20% is going to go to your brain. Your brain feels like soft room temperature butter. Okay, freeze right now. Do you want to see why mental health is in the toilet today? Those of you who have been in my sessions before, that's my brain in 2008. You flood your brain with cortisol and adrenaline because you're getting bullied at work, which is where we spend more time than any place else. You will burn your brain. That's why 80% of all your employees, statistically, are on psychiatric medications. And only 20% of them are on the right ones. That's my brain on 2008. And I got religion in 2008. What'd I do? First of all, I got all the jackasses out of my life. Got them out. I started taking my vitamins, drinking half my weight in ounces in water. Yes, these are my glasses, 32 ounces. I drink 4 of them every day. You're going to pee a lot. Just get used to it. Just cath yourself if you have a problem with that. But I will tell you, you're going to flush all that cortisol and adrenaline out. And that's my brain in 2020. Listen up, folks. Listen to me. The law is important. If you have illegal programs, if you have programming that stereotypes white males, the chances you're going to get sued and lose are really good. Really good. There are law firms that are setting up across this country that are going to specialize solely on representing employees and DEI programs. The pitchforks and torches are out. And second, it's going to destroy your mental health. Oh, and by the way, that flooding of cortisol and adrenaline causes Alzheimer's. Bullying causes Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is expected to triple in this country. Okay? And think about it. When you flood your body with massive amounts of cortisol and adrenaline, it inflames your entire body. inflames it. What's that mean? Does anybody know somebody who has ever lost their hair or gotten a rash from distress? Anybody ever know somebody like that? Yeah. Do you ever wonder why that happens? It happens because your entire body is inflaming, and that includes your heart, that includes your lungs, it includes everything. Oh, Lord, yeah, yeah. Your body is swelling, and so what's happening? You're developing rashes. It is cutting off the blood flow to your hair follicles, so your hair falls out. It's killing you. It's 40% worse than smoking. Okay? Now, look what's happening here. Do you ever notice what the president looks like after 4 years in office? They've aged. Because those are your strands of DNA. When you are flooding your body with massive amounts of adrenaline and cortisol, you see those little ends of the telomeres, we call them. See those little caps? You have to re-energize, recirculate your DNA, the cells, so many times. They got to regenerate. You lose a little bit of that telomere every time until eventually it completely unravels and that strand of DNA dies. You're dying. You're dying. When you hang around good people, no. You release all this telomerase in your body by hanging around good people, and those telomeres grow back. Okay, you kind of see, I want you to have your people want this in place, not just for legal protection, but if they work in an environment where we are fighting with each other because of age, race, religion, it will kill you. It will kill you. Okay? Racial discrimination gives you diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, hypertension, obesity. Why? Because your entire body is swelling. We used to know that it would aggravate these conditions. Now it gives them to you. And one of my dear friends from high school died a year ago from heart disease. He's only 63. And I wonder about the strain of racism, how much that took. He was a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal. Okay, now it's white people's turn. And it's all across the country. This boomerang bigotry is hitting blacks, it's hitting whites, it's hitting Asians. And male suicide, white male suicide is through the roof. Through the roof. Okay, have you ever heard, think about the toll this takes. Robin DiAngelo, white fragility. Okay, she put on a program for LinkedIn and said, you all need to try to be less white. Really? What's that mean? Be less white. You got to be less oppressive, less arrogant, less certain, less defensive. What? So just because you're white, this is what's happening. And this program is put on at Coca-Cola. Okay. Now, that's acceptable bigotry. It's acceptable bigotry to pick on someone because of their age, because of their gender. Oh, no. What if you said, well, you really should try to be less black? Oh my gosh. Try to be less Jewish. Try to be less gay. Okay? Let me tell you, I have 6 friends within the last 12 months who are white who went on to full disability because of this type of racism. One of them has permanent paralysis on the side of her face because all this distress caused her hair to fall out, and the virus came awake in her body, and her neurologist says, yeah, this distress caused you permanent paralysis. Got another one that is having severe migraines and is off on disability. This is what we're doing to each other. Okay? Suicide is through the roof. Okay? Look at this count. Okay? This is from the 2020 census. 35,000 white people killed themselves. 3,200 black people killed themselves. That's 10 times more white people killing themselves than blacks. Do you see the toll that this has taken on the white people? Now, there's only 6 times more white people in the United States than black, but 10 times more are killing themselves. Yeah, 10 times. Now, for every successful attempt, there's 4 hospitalizations. There's 8 emergency room visits. There's 27 self-reported attempts. There's 275 people who are planning it. Okay, what's my point? Oh my God. You should be as upset over that one Asian who does it. And I'll tell you, when Pandora opened her box of evils and let all of these evils out into the world, there was only one thing left in the box. Do not make the mistake that someone kills themselves because of a mental impairment. That is not true. Less than half the people in this country kill themselves because of a mental impairment. They kill themselves because they don't have any hope. If I am a black child who is told that you can't get a job here or you can't go to school here because you're black, you've taken away their hope. That is true with white people and everyone. People don't live their lives as statistics. We all experience pain as individuals. So my little bit here is I want us to all treat each other as human beings. Now, let me ask you, very simple question. And this, I want a real answer here. Is one person equal to one person? What do you think? It is just as bad if somebody who is white, who is in pain, as somebody who is black, or someone who is Asian, or someone who is Amish. How many people agree? Give me a reaction that everyone should be treated with equity and nobody should be treated like this. You know that half of the Asians in America have been the victims of hate crimes? Can you get that? Half of every Asian in this country has been the victim of a hate crime since the coronavirus. You know, the quote, quote, China virus. Oh, no, no. We need to consider every individual person. If someone's homeless, cold, or hungry, and you care about that person's race, you're the racist. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Okay, we want to be putting in programs that correspond with workplace civility. Are you making it safe? And this is from the 2016, everybody with me here? Regulations or guidelines from the EEOC for your training for harassment.